Hi, class. This is Professor Cambridge, and I am making these little videos that I'm going to put in the course material section. And this particular video is going to be on grades and grading. English 111 and English 121 are part of the Common Core, and you must pass them. The lowest grade you can get in English 111 or English 121 is a C. Anything lower than a C, even a C minus, you doesn't move forward. It becomes a grade of NC, which is no credit, and you are required to take the course again. So I'm not here to fail anybody. So that's the bad news. The good news is that in Professor Cambridge's class, if you get anything in the C family, C plus, C minus, C, you can write the paper over. Anything lower than a C, then anything in C family or lower, you get to write the paper over. If you get a B, you keep the B because I cannot be regrading papers for B pluses because you didn't get an A or a B. When I was a freshman, we used to say a B stands for better than nothing. So, which wasn't cute, but what could we say when we got the B? So I want to talk to you about your grades, explain to you how I'm going to be grading your writing, the chances you have to redo your work, how important it is to respond to your teachers' comments and to make changes based on their suggestions. Teachers do not like it when you make the same mistakes over and over. So if your instructor points something out to you, and let's hope that you'll be able to see these things in your grades, that you know how to look for them. I'm going to show you how to look for them, give you an example. And I'm going to show you my rubric for the simple rubric, which is the basis for all of my grading. Each assignment may have specific instructions that you have to follow, but the basic writing rubric is something that I'm going to expect you to follow. And I may not give you a copy of it with each paper, but you need to do it. You need to look at it and understand what I'm grading you on, okay? So let's go. Okay, so let's go look at the rubric. As usual, I'm in Zoom, so I'm just sharing the screen with you because it's just easier for me. I don't have to edit quite so much. So this is what is my simple rubric doc. And this is something I got from my mentor, oh boy, many years ago, to help me to stay focused on the students' work. And, it's not so much, I don't even need to know your name, what you look like, where you sit in my class. I need to look at your work and see what you're doing. And that's what a good teacher does. Personalities aside, it's the writing that needs to be the focus. So with this, I'm able to focus. This keeps me honest. So here we go. We're looking at different categories. So there's clarity, there's content, there's communication, and then there's correctness. So this is an alliteration. That is to say, everything starts with the same sound: clarity, content, communication, correctness. Sort of like she sells seashells. Anyway, the first thing we're looking at, it's a grid. So on this side is the A side. This side is the D side. And what happens if you get too many D's is you get an F. If you get too many C's as well as D's, you get an F. You straight down the middle, you get a B. And if you're on this side, you get an A. However, it's not true for every line. Some things are more important than the others. Clarity is very important. So let's look at what I'm looking at for clarity. This is a well-focused paper. Or maybe the ideas ramble and repeat. You say the same thing over and over in several different places on the paper, but you never get to the point. There's a logical order of details. For instance, if you make a point and you're going to give me examples, there's a logical order of it. The logical order of how you set up your paper. So this has to do with outlining and the validity and strength of your thesis and your ideas. So sometimes the details are out of place. You start talking about one thing at the beginning of the paper and you don't get back to it until the end. That's a detail that's out of place. Effective transitions. We know what transitions are. If they're weak or no transition, that's a D. This is a single coherent essay. It holds together. Cohere means it's like glue. It holds together. Your points go with each other. Incoherent, disorganized essays. I don't have to tell you what disorganized essays are like. I'm sure you've experienced them before. It's like when you're talking to somebody and you're listening to them respond to you and you're like, when is this person getting to the point? I'm sure we all know people like that. Don't say Professor Cambridge. Okay, you understood the assignment. Now you need to see that you lose points if you misunderstand the assignment. Email me if you don't understand the assignment. WhatsApp with one of your classmates if you don't understand the assignment. But make an attempt to understand the assignment, okay? Incomplete work. The assignment is complete. You get an A. The assignment is incomplete. What did you leave out? No conclusion? That's an incomplete assignment, okay? So that's very important because that's your whole thesis and how you handle it right at the beginning. Content. Do you have an inviting introduction? Do you have a weak or maybe no introduction? You just jump into it. You have a strong thesis, weak or no thesis. A strong thesis is a thesis that can hold an argument. It doesn't have to do with whether or not it's true, whether or not you agree or disagree with something. It's whether or not you can carry through an argument. For instance, I can say that the weather in New York is wonderful. It's been raining for days, right? And it's gray outside. But if I say that, I have to be able to argue for both sides. And one of the ways I would argue about that is to say that it, as Aristotle says, one sweet day doesn't make a summer, and one rainy day doesn't make a fall. So I could say it as long as I can back it up. You have clear, relevant points, right? The F of that or the D of that, the D side, it says your information is wrong or it's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with it, or you have insufficient information. Effective conclusion, weak or no conclusion. Well, Americans just repeat the introduction. So there's something in our course materials that said going beyond the 5-paragraph essay, you can look at how to write a conclusion there. Appropriate reference to source. You just summarize whatever the source said. You don't refer to it and make the points your own. You just repeat. Appropriate use of source citation. No distinction between what the person said and what you said. You just cut and paste it in there as if it was your idea in the first place. I also have students who want to fight, and they'll say, well, we don't have to listen. We don't have to, if I ask, what did this person say? Well, we don't have to tell you what that person said because that person was, their character is a problem. And when they were alive, it might be some dead person, been dead for thousands of years, they had slaves or they treated women badly or they were homophobic or they're Islamophobic, or they're racist. Okay, but what did they say? That's the question. And it's actually a cop-out to say, I don't have to do this assignment the way it's written because I don't agree with what the person that we're writing about said. That is an ad hominem fallacy where you attack the person instead of their ideas. And in this class, we're learning to attack or agree or discuss ideas, not the people who said them. Okay? So then we have communication, words used correctly, awkward, incorrect, misleading words. Well, with spell check, it's hard to not to spell things wrong. So, but you can, your vocabulary can be incorrect and you use words incorrectly. You lose points for that. Awkward words, that is when you try to use big words, but you don't use them correctly, or you put them in an awkward place. Strong action verbs, too many, and on the D side is too many is-are verbs. So what happens with the too many is-are verbs is you end up with a lot of verbs in the passive voice. So you say things like mistakes were made. Well, who made the mistake? Passive voice weakens your argument. It weakens your argument. Things happen. That's not passive voice. That's actually an active. It happened and things happen, but it's vague. So here we are, precise, specific words, vague, general words. Let me give you some vague, general words. Many. How much is many? How much is a lot? When is sometimes? Vague. So you want complete, concise, accurate sentences. How many of you have been accused of doing ramblings and run-ons and fragments? That's gotta watch that. It's better to keep your sentences short with strong verbs. Natural sounding language. Sometimes you write too slang, too cliche. You just repeat something that somebody said that you heard that sounded good. It's something that's being said over and over and over. The language is too flowery. So students that have learned Romance languages like French or Spanish or some Eastern European languages that come from Latin roots, in English, the words sound very dramatic. For instance, I'll give you an example. The French say, "Je suis désolé." I'm desolate, because I'm upset something happened. But in English, it sounds dramatic. Or in Spanish, you say, "Lo siento." I feel it. In English, it sounds a little dramatic. So when you're writing, you can become dramatic. And don't get me wrong, people who only speak English and no other language can be quite dramatic and flowery also. Especially if you've been reading a lot of those young adult novels. There's a lot of flowery language in them. So be a little careful about this. This is academic prose. You want to be a little bit dry, not too dry. You want to have natural sounding language. And risk creativity and insight. You get an A for being creative in my class. Formulaic. That means you stick to a formula, the 5-paragraph essay. Too safe. If you take little or no risk, there's a point to be made, but you're afraid to make it. So you just write around it or you write a boring essay. You're going to lose points for that. But this is something that needs to be developed, right? It's something that you practice. Right now, you're inexperienced with academic prose. Even those of you that took AP English, writing in a college class, you have a different group of students now. So I'm looking at a different pool of students to compare you to. Okay, so let's look at correctness. There is no excuse for incorrect spelling if you're writing on a computer. None. Okay. Spell check takes care of everything. In fact, spell check is, you got to watch spell check because it will change a word. You want to say one thing, they'll give you a homonym, which is a word that sounds like that word. Like you want to talk about a window pane, and it will write pain, P-A-I-N, which means it hurts. And you won't correct it because that little red line won't be under it because it's a word. So read what you wrote. Punctuation strong and varied. Punctuation weak and inaccurate. If you have punctuation problems, you end up with fragments and run-ons and rambling sentences. Consistent verb tense. Sometimes people go back and forth from present to past to future in the same sentence. That's very tricky. In order to do that correctly, you really have to be an experienced writer. And most of the time, even if you're an experienced writer, it's wrong. So be careful that you're staying in the same tense. Accurate use of prepositions. Prepositions are the last thing anybody learns in any language. Little children would say, I'm on top of the bed when they're under the bed. So prepositions are prepositions. They tell you before, where you are in space and time. New Yorkers and I think Americans, sadly, are overusing the preposition to. So if all you say is to, you can really be misleading with your prepositions. I can't think of a bad example right now, but if you watch TV, you'll hear the announcer say it. It's a bad habit. But if you have a bad habit in language for long enough, like maybe 100 years, it'll get into the dictionary. But right now, it's not in the dictionary. So it's wrong. So you need clear pronoun reference. Clear pronoun reference. Let me repeat that. What does that sound like? George, Fred, and his brother, Tony, went to the movies. He said he didn't like the movie. Who said it? George, Fred, or his brother, Tony? He is a pronoun that is not the antecedents of the pronoun. What came before it is not clear. Who said what? Okay. Effective manuscript form, heading, margins, title, citations. I'm going to do another one of these little 5-minute ones on MLA formatting and the apps and how to use them. This poor manuscript form, MLA formatting isn't just a works cited page. It is the entire document form. But I'm not going to spend a million minutes on that right now. I'll do another one of these little 5-minute ones and stick it in the course materials for you. And until they update Microsoft Word or Google Docs, you should be able to use it. So then there's evidence of proofreading and careless errors. And when it's obvious that you just finished the paper right on time to fall asleep, and then you woke up in the morning or you just hit send without even reading your paper. So the teacher's the first person to read your paper. Can't be upset about your grade if you didn't read the paper. How do you know you wrote a good paper? So let's grade something here. Let me show you how I'm grading this, okay? So let's say the paper was well focused, which is a good thing. We'll put a little X here. The details were in place. The transitions were a little harsh. Not bad, but a little harsh. It was a single coherent essay, but because of the transitions, I have to give them a B because it seems a little incoherent. It's not really holding together. They understood the assignment and the assignment is complete. So for clarity, you did very well. And I have to say that I'm biased towards clarity. Now for content, well, your introduction was a little boring, but your thesis was excellent. You had insufficient evidence. But it wasn't bad evidence. You just, you didn't really develop your points. So if you have insufficient evidence, you didn't develop your points. Your ideas seem incomplete. Your conclusion was the regular American conclusion. So I'm not going to hold that against you for this paper, but maybe at a later paper, when you do your research paper and you really need to have a proper conclusion, I'll hold it against you. So an appropriate reference to source, it was all right. I'll give you an A for that. You could have developed more. Appropriate use of citation, well, you didn't do a works cited page. But maybe I didn't ask you to do one, so you were confused. So I'll give you a B, not an A. Okay, words used correctly. Yeah, strong action verbs. Yes. Vague. You were vague. That's why you weren't in. You didn't. You had insufficient evidence. You were vague. Your punctuation was horrific. Fragments, ramblings, run-ons everywhere. Natural sounding language? Of course not. Not with all those fragments. It's a little bit, well, slangy, let's say. So I'll give you a B for that. And you took no risks. You took no risks. So there's, boring paper. You had a couple of words that were spelled incorrectly, and there is no excuse for that. Like I said, your punctuation was horrific. No, you got your verb tenses good. Well, you got your verb tenses correct, right? However, your prepositions let you down a couple of times. So, that's my pet peeve. So I'm going to give you a C for that. Your pronoun references were clear. Your manuscript form, like I said, you didn't do the works cited page. So I'm going to give you a C for that. And I get the feeling that you could do better. So I'm going to guess that you didn't, but with the spelling, sorry, that's a careless error. So here we're looking at an A minus or a B, right? Here we're looking at a B again. Ooh, this is not good. This is like a C plus, okay? So let's see if I can show you. This is 100% zoom. Let's look at a 50% zoom. So you can see the graph itself. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking this is a B plus. It's not an A because you don't have enough A's. You have this going on here, this here. So this could be a B or a B minus, depending on the paper and your points and how it was written. This is in the B family. I wouldn't give you a C for this paper because there's not enough C-ness here. But you're not getting an A. Okay, so that's how I grade. And you will get a copy of this. So you can see what was the problem. If I say to you, let's talk, or I think you should take your paper to the writing center and get help. There's online help 24 hours, so don't worry about it. You can just go online and get it. Once you do that, you can rewrite the paper. So how would you see this, right? Here we go. So this is me, my grades. As you can see, I haven't done any work for the class, and where I did, I got an F. Oh my God, the teacher is right. Okay, so here's this little bubble here. You can view the feedback, and it says, Charlene, I believe that you must have submitted the wrong document by accident. Please resubmit your assignment and make sure that you upload the correct file. And I'm thinking, what is she talking about? What is she smoking? So I click on that. Did you see that? I can click on this. And here I am at my paper. Oh my goodness, she's right. I did send what it oh my gosh, this is an art project. I sent the wrong paper. So now if I go here, here's my feedback. You will also see this in the feedback because I will attach it. And you'll be able to see it here. I really recommend that you look at your feedback. There are students that will go through the whole semester and they won't look at the feedback and they wonder why they don't do well in the class. Please look at the feedback.